On today's episode of Pure Screen Gems podcast, it's time once again to step into the TARDIS with the Doctor and Ruby as I give you my thoughts and spoiler-filled review of this episode of Doctor Who entitled Rogue, starting right now. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Pure Screen Gems podcast and a review of Doctor Who episode 6, Rogue. Now, I know that this episode in particular, according to a lot of people in my surrounding who are big Doctor Who fans, have been waiting for this one for a while, I would say. And also people who are Brigerton fans on Netflix, I knew would be very happy with this episode. And this is one of the highest rated, or one of the mostly anticipated episodes. And let me tell you, this episode did not disappoint. This was a fun episode. This was not as serious as, let's say, the last one that we got, Dot and Bubble. Actually, a little fun side note here. About 3-4 minutes into this episode, I'm really watching this and I'm enjoying it. And I am not a Bridgerton fan. Why? Because I've never watched a single episode. I might watch it after seeing this episode. I might start watching Bridgerton after, let's say, I'm done with the season or later on, because there's so much stuff to watch coming up this month. Anyways, about 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes into this episode, my wife Chantal, who probably some of you have heard on this podcast, looks up at the TV and asks me, "Are you watching Bridgerton?" And I laugh at her as "No, I'm watching Doctor Who." And she looks at me, "Really?" "Yeah." And there's actually a line that Ruby says in this where she says, "This is so Bridgerton." I'm gonna say that the whole transference of going from one body to the next for these villains, the effects made me think of The Flash. I said, "Oh my god, is this a precursor to The Flash?" But then later, we find out that the villains are the scourge of the universe. Cosplayers. No, I'm just joking, guys. I love cosplayers. I mean, I go to Comic Cons almost every year. I love cosplayers and what they do with their imagination and their time. And I mean, for God's sakes, I saw this one guy dressed up as a Nintendo Game Boy with Tetris playing on his chest. I couldn't believe it. I digress, but the thing is, this was a very good show. I couldn't believe it. And it really went for the heartstrings. I mean, honestly, the dancing, the costumes, the era, this episode appealed to so many types of people, not only sci-fi, but also the mystery, the glamour, the scandal, even those of us who love musicals, with a little nostalgia put into there where we see all the faces of each preceding Doctor. That was a very cool effect right there. Now, I don't want to dwell too much on what happened in the last episode, where, of course, we find out that not only uh, the main guest star was racist, but I mean, racism in the future when now we're back in the past in 1813, and there is no racism where high society sees the doctor dancing with Ruby, and there is no racism. There's classism, maybe, but none. So that was a little funny, but it was okay. I mean, sometimes we have to suspend disbelief, but that's okay. As I said, I've been to several Comic Cons, one of which I was lucky enough to attend a panel with John Barrowman. Now, this guy is amazing. He is hilarious. And I do know that he's played Captain Jack in the Doctor Who series. I've never seen him in character, so I don't know anything about the character itself. But from what I've heard, other people tell me the character of Rogue, played by Jonathan Groff, a very good actor, especially on Broadway, is very similar to Captain Jack, so I'll have to take their word for it. I can imagine. I mean, I guess so. And the way that they flirted with each other, culminating in that moment where he went on bended knee, and afterwards, where they had that kiss, and he says, "Find me?" Or was it "Look for me?" But when he said that, to me, that was okay. This was not a one off character. He was not there just for one episode. It reminded me of Spock saying to McCoy in Star Trek II, "Remember." Now I remember now. He said, "Find me." Because Spock said, "Remember." So it wasn't the same thing. He didn't say the same words. So my guess is at some point that character will come back. Obviously not this season, maybe next season or in 2 seasons, I don't know. But there's something there because at the end when, and I know I'm jumping ahead here, but it's something very significant to me because when he put on that ring and saluted him, to me that meant I'll be seeing you. Even though he told Ruby after she said, "Well, why can't we go get him?" And the way he answered it was almost impossible to go get him. But I think he'll be able to get him at some point. Maybe not in this iteration of the Doctor, but I think he will be able to. And some people may have a problem with how fast that Grace was portrayed. But I don't know. I mean, I can understand. I mean, sometimes you just gotta take a chance. And as usual, like a Hitchcock film, I was looking for Susan Twist, and I found her. But this time it wasn't a person, this time it wasn't a speaking role, it was a mural. Or I should say, it was a painting. And I'll be honest, I didn't, almost didn't catch it. I thought it was the maid at first. But when I watched it a second time, I said, "Oh my god, there she is." But this episode was really fun, as I said, and it was cheeky. It was not the kind that was serious. It wasn't meant to be taken seriously either. And for once since I'd say episode 3, which was what, Boom? Finally, the Doctor and Ruby together are in the forefront of this episode. So it's about time. Finally, a real Doctor Who episode. But I'll tell you one thing. The Doctor loves to go retro. Especially when he puts that Kylie Minogue song on after On and On and On and On. That really brought back memories. So what are your thoughts about this episode? What did you like? What did you dislike? I can tell you that this episode by far is my favorite. Now we've got 2 more episodes, and I can also tell you that the next 2 episodes is going to be a 2-part finale. So that means that we're going to have it to be continued, even though it's 2 different titles. The Legend of Ruby Sunday and Empire of Death. Both of those sounds epic, and I can't wait to watch those and see how this all culminates and ends. All I know is we have to get some answers to who that Susan Twist character is and how does she tie into the bigger picture. But until then, keep on traveling with the Doctor and let's have some fun. So I'll be seeing you real soon. Bye bye.